Is a 4% withdrawal rate still a good retirement rule? Now, we're going to read an article from Kiplinger's that a guy sent me from my YouTube channel that it's pretty interesting, as a matter of fact. So let me just the background. Well, actually, let's just dive right into this because he does talk about, again, the Bill Bengen, where he came up with the 4% rule and whatnot. I think you'll get a lot out of this. And this Dateline, June 13th, 2019, by Ray Levatier. I'm not sure who that is, but pretty interesting. So 4% withdrawal rate still a good retirement rule of thumb? We put the popular theory to test using 30 years of real-world stock market returns. And so let's dive into this. I got to figure out how to make this bigger. Hold on just a second, man, because sometimes it does. All right, I'm going to have to. Did that make it bigger? All right, either way, I'll figure this out one time. I thought I had it, but my Chromebook and the MacBook. All right, the general guideline of withdrawing no more than 4% rule has during retirement has come under fire as of late. The guideline was a result of a recent study. The guideline was a result of a study conducted almost 30 years ago. I've talked all about that for sure. So we're not going to dive into the Bill Bengen rule from 1994. But is still 4% a good rule of thumb, as Bengen concluded back then? I believe the answer is probably. The reality is a little bit more complex, however, and it takes a little bit more planning than just using a rule of thumb to help ensure your peace of mind. Yeah, I get that 100%. Here's how the 4% rule works. If you take your investment portfolio at retirement, multiply it by 4%, and that's how much you can safely withdraw each year without running out of money, and adjust it by inflation. In this case, we're using 3% each and every year as well. And I think if memory isn't let's see. Let's keep going down. If memory serves, Bengen changed it a little bit as well. But let's just keep going down. Let's test the rule by assuming you retired 30 years ago on January 1st, 1989. It's actually pretty funny because he talks. This is a good point of reference. Michael Jordan scored his 10,000th point. The 49ers won their third Super Bowl. I mean, I was literally watching the Super Bowl in the second month or third month of basic training. I mean, literally, that's a lifetime ago. I was 18 years old watching the 49ers playing the Bengals. They wheeled some TV into our basic training. Still in basic training. Dustin Hoffman won the Oscar for Rain Man. George H.W. Bush was president, just became president, Tiananmen Square. It's just, and I'm reading a book right now called, what is this book called I'm reading? It's great. I love this book, man. I highly recommend it. Bear with me just a second while I find it. It was written in 1990, as a matter of fact. Hold on just a sec. Here we go. It's called Time and Chance. Time and Chance by Alan Brennert. It's a great book. It was written in 1990 when people still had answer machines and things of that nature. It's kind of funny because you fast forward 30 years and that old school way of looking at it is done. But yet that's still my lifetime, still your lifetime. It's just, I love the point of reference because you think back where you were in 1989 and how different it is today and just what it's going to be like 30 years from now. It's amazing to me. Which is another reason I hate bonds. I mean, the idea that you bought a bond in 1989, it's doomsday scenario, man, relative to what that purchasing power is on that bond today. It's just, yeah. All right, so let's say you follow the 4% rule and happen to be fortunate enough to have $1 million investment portfolio in 1989, which would be the equivalent of $2.4 million today. Here he says it. While $1 million would have been a lot in 1999, we're not testing the dollar amount, but rather the percentage. You could say 100,000, you could say 10,000, you could say 10 million. It doesn't matter because it's still 4% on that $1 million adjusted each and every year with inflation. It'd be 4% on that $10,000 adjusted each and every year with inflation as well. Analyzing the 4% rule with real-world numbers. So here's our investment plan. We're going to take $1 million, invest half into stocks and half into bonds. We're going to use the Vanguard S&P 500 and the Dodge & Cox Income Fund. I'm a big fan of that Dodge & Cox Income Fund as well. We're going to rebalance the portfolio each and every year, or every 6 months. During year one, we'll assume you withdraw and spend $40,000. In year two, we'll assume you're due to rising inflation. You're going to withdraw 3% more than you did the previous year, so 41,200, and will continue to withdraw 3% more each and every year. So how did you do? And he shows us his first chart down here. All right, so the first chart shows that your $1 million ended up being worth $5.9 million even after spending $1.9 million over the 30 years from 1989 to 2018. During that period, the portfolio would have averaged 8.95% return. So if we had a repeat of the past 30 years, we conclude that you can actually spend as much as $60,000 adjusted for 3% each and every year with inflation. And then the chart below, I carved up the past 30 years into 3 decades so we can test our portfolio using the results of starting with a good or bad decade. And he didn't do it like I was hoping he would, but I'll share with you because I thought it was interesting. For example, in the first test, your portfolio takes advantage of the technology run up from 1989 to 1998, which really helps over the long term. Note, however, that things change a little if we flip the order in each of the 3 decades retest. So he's saying, look, I wish he would have done differently here. I thought it was right for the take. I'm not sure why he didn't do it. 1989 to 1998, you had a 14.09% annual rate of return. 2009 to 2018, you had a 9.4% annual rate of return, and he just flipped these. He did a sequence of return, just adjusting it. I wish he would have started with 1999. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. In each test, the portfolio ends up with a large balance. You didn't run out of money. So again, in 1989, we started with $1 million. We had a $40,000 draw. At the end of the year, we had $1.172 million, and then we flipped them over. We started in 2009. In this case, yeah, 1980. Oh, wait, he did. Oh, sweet, he did do it. Okay, no, he did. Oh, good. All right, sweet. He did do the 3 different ones. All right, yeah, take that back. Good on you, whatever this guy's name is. What's this guy's name again? This is perfect. Ray, good on you, Ray. That's fantastic. All right, so sweet. He does 1989 you start, 1999 you start, and 2009 you start. So he's doing 3 different scenarios. 1989 to 1998, 1999 to 2008, 2009 to 2018. Oh, that's fantastic. And he's saying we're going to start with $40,000 a year, 4%. We're going to adjust each and every year with inflation at 3%. So the first year we're going to take $40,000 out. The next year we're going to take $41,200, and so on and so on. So if we started in 1989, where the next decade we had a 14.09% annual rate of return, we ended up with $5.9 million and had taken out $1.9 million. However, if we started 1999, the lost decade, so to speak, where that whole decade only averaged 2.59%, we actually got, in fact, this portfolio never went down in value. This portfolio fell below $1 million from 2001 to 2005, then again in 2008. So this is more realistic portfolio, and I hate to say worst case scenario because there's always the threat of being nuked, which is the worst case scenario. But you started with $1 million, and by the end of the first decade, he's had $776,000 to show for it after you had taken out, 40,000, 41, 42. That's not bad, man. I mean, yeah, you still lost, or you're still down of your principal 23%, but I mean, you took that money out. It's not like it just kaput. It's you spent it. And then you started, as long as you hung in there, you started going back up. Oh, this is great. And so then, so that was, I mean, the question I have for you is after 10 years, you're able to take out 100, 200, 300, 400, roughly $450,000 to $500,000. And your portfolio is still worth $776,000 after the worst decade we've essentially ever experienced since the Great Depression. And I'm not sure if that was even worse. I can't remember. But anyway, you're still sitting on $776,000. And as long as you didn't do anything, within the next 10 years, you're back up to $1 million, even after taking out another $750,000. And then to close out that 30 year, you got $2.2 million. So you started with $1 million. It dropped all the way down to $776,000, but you ended the decade or the end of the 30-year time frame at $2.2 million, and you still took out $1.9. That's the worst case scenario because you started that last decade. So that's a great, this is great. And then, of course, if you start in 2009, we had nothing but a nice run up from 2009 to 2018. 2018 was down a little bit, but not much. And so you started with $1 million. You ended the decade at 1.7. Then you had a great decade from 89 to 98. You're up at 5.1. And then you didn't really advance the ball much going forward from 1998 to 2008. But either way, you had 5.9 million, 2.2 million, and 5.473 million in all 3 different scenarios. That's fantastic. And you were still able to take 4% a year out, adjusting each and every year with inflation. Now, let's see what would happen had you followed conventional wisdom and withdrew 5% each year, adjusted for the 3% inflation. You'll see in the next chart, you still have been able to withdraw even more investing from 1989 to 2018. If we flip to decades, however, your performance in the first decade looked like that if you would have run out of money. Okay, guys, so here. So for now, we're taking 5% out, and they were starting in 1999. We would have ran out of money. So we got 50,000, not 40,000. That's a 20% increase. 51.5 the next year, 53. In this case, we had $1 million, and at the end of 1999, at the end of the first decade, it fell to 649,000. Fell to 410 at the end of the next decade. And here we're taking 87,000 a year out. You're not going to sustain that. And then finally, we ran out of money in year 26, it looks like. So we still were able to survive 26 years with 5% a year, which is pretty substantial. And again, this does not include the idea that you'll spend less or that you're going to do any belt tightening. So that's the worst case scenario. I actually believe that to be the worst case scenario, reality based. 1999 starting to 2000, 1999 to 2008, starting that decade off like that, taking 5% a year off, and even then I'm still able to survive 26 years essentially. I got no qualm with that at all. Now, if you were to start in 1989, the gangbuster years, you still had 4 million to your name. And if you were started in 2009, you still had 4 million to your name as well. So in this case, again, this goes back to the confidence. 4%, we didn't live nearly as large, and that way we left our kids. We weren't quite flying coach, but we certainly left our kids first-class tickets. 5%, we weren't quite. We're spending more luxurious, shall we say, and yet we still left our kids a pretty good first-class ticket for every event other than one. So we have 6 scenarios. Of the 6, only one ran out of money, and even that was well into retirement. And again, that is assuming a 50-50 stock to bond portfolio and that you never do any belt tightening, and you're going to adjust your expenses each and every year with inflation. It does assume fees because the investment fees are already baked into the cake here, which is good. I like that. It's not just literally it's real returns from these two funds, which I love, and it does not assume taxes though, so keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so let's see what our guy says. Based on the past 30 years, you can conclude that 4% was a safe withdrawal rate and good advice, and even 5% was mostly safe. Of course, mostly safe isn't a good way to plan. The author of the original, there we go, Bill Bengen, the author of the original study, Bengen, has modified his safe withdrawal rate to 4.5% now when holding a more diversified portfolio. Note, however, that you may be comfortable with a withdrawal rate closer to 5% of your investment portfolio if you have a lot of equity in your home that you aren't opposed to tapping in. I could not agree with that more. The problem with this type of testing is that retirement spending doesn't go exactly as outlined, spending exactly 3% more each and every year. Oftentimes, there needs to be higher withdrawal rates in some years and lower in others. The 4% is a good place to start, but I believe further planning is needed. Yeah, I actually say 5% is a good place to start, without question. 5% is a better place to start because, look, even in this scenario, a static withdrawals each and every year. Of the 6 scenarios, only one ran out of money, and even that only did in 26 years into the future. And that's when we started with pretty significant, horrible decade of 2000, basically the first decade of the century. So let's start with 5%. Without question, tighten your belt. So going back to the issue. All right, so now we're at 5%. We're going to say, okay, the next year we're down to 9.99. Don't give yourself an inflation adjustment. Just keep it what it was, 50,000 before. Next year we're down. Don't give yourself an inflation adjustment. Just keep it at what we had before. And I think you'll be good to go there. Anyway, I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good scenario. I don't know if they allow for comments on here. See, I guess I don't allow comments. How to know you're in the retirement red zone? See, Kiplinger's is always good on making me want to read their stuff. It's always good clickbait. But I like Kiplinger. I'm a big fan of what they do here. And I'm just looking here real quick. Looks like Dan Dunkin' Donuts participated. Dan Dunkin' Donuts contributed to this article. All right, so anyway, I'll leave this as show notes. Again, I would like to hear from you. What do you think is a safe I hate the even term safe withdrawal rate. What are you going to use for your withdrawal rate in retirement? Have you ever thought about that? Just put it in the notes. We'll just say 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm just curious. So tell me what you're going to do. All right, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, smash, and we'll see you next time. Thanks now.